What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of my Men's High Performance Podcast. My name's Phil. I'm an ex-international athlete turned men's high performance coach, and my role is to try and make high performance as simple as I can for you. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the first time I've ever done a recording where it is me on video. So hello, nice to meet you, and let's get into this episode. Look, on today's episode, I really want to talk about the idea of self-esteem and why I think this idea is actually doing you more harm than good. First, let's talk about the definition of this idea. Because self-esteem, as I understand it, is the idea of what we think, feel, and believe about ourselves. The assumption we make is that high self-esteem is somehow linked to a better performing life for people. They may be more confident, they may be happier, they might have more relationships, they might have more dating opportunities, they might earn more money. The list goes on. By default, we also assume that people with low self-esteem are less likely to have those things. Maybe they're less likely to find suitable partner, they're less likely to make as much money as they want to, they're less likely to take chances, they're just less likely to have fulfilling lives. So based off the idea of self-esteem, we try to make the assumption that the goal is to have high self-esteem. Now, I'm going to explain to you why I believe this is actually more of a problem than it is a benefit, this entire idea. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons. The first reason is the measurement itself is subjective, okay? It is dependent on how we feel. As all of you guys know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I don't believe our feelings are the best way to direct where we put our energy towards, and in fact to think. Our feelings will fluctuate every single day. At times they fluctuate every few hours. So we will never have a stable self-esteem to draw back on because it's so influenced by what we feel about ourselves. The second reason why I don't believe this idea is innately helpful is because the solutions that are linked to high self-esteem, like we are worthy of love and be kind to yourself and to tell yourself positive affirmations, to me they're incredibly silly. Like they're actually a little bit stupid, because every time you tell yourself these things, you are coming at it from the place of the opposite. Okay, so I'm going to explain what that means later on, but just think about that for a little moment. And the third reason why I believe this is a bit of a stupid idea is because the tried and truest method of increasing an individual's internal state is by forcing them out into the world so that they do not focus on their internal state. Okay, let me repeat that. The tried and truest method of increasing an individual's internal state is by forcing them out into the world so that they do not focus on their internal state. They do not focus on it. I'm going to explain what that means in a sec too. So let me get into the first point now. The measurement itself is subjective, which means how you feel about yourself can change dependent on how your mood is that particular day. And since feelings are so incredibly dynamic, like fickle even, when you are happy, you will most likely feel good about yourself, right? When you are angry or anxious, you probably feel a little bit worse about yourself. The problem with this is sometimes we don't even know why we feel the way we feel. And suddenly we are using this feeling to ask ourselves what our opinion of ourselves is. The last time you were happy, could you really tell me exactly why you were happy? And the last time you were sad, can you tell me exactly why you were sad? Because there are days where you have both of those things and you've got no idea why that is the way it is. Let me give you an example. If you wake up in winter in a Scandinavian country, you won't see sunlight for hours. And even when you do, it's not a very long time. They call this seasonal depression. It's a whole thing where people in that part of Europe will experience depression because the weather is so crap. Now, if you ask them what their self-esteem is during this time, I guarantee you, I'm very confident anyway, that their self-esteem is going to be lower. But they've done nothing to be this way. It's because it's a factor completely outside of their control. It's just because the sun doesn't rise in that part of the earth for a very long time. So I bring that example up because your self-esteem in that instance could have been very low, but it's got nothing to do with who you are, what you've done, anything wrong with you inside. It's simply because the sun doesn't come up very much. So think back to any time you feel like you have low self-esteem. Do you really know why you felt the way you did before you even asked that question? Okay, sometimes people think that because they have low self-esteem, they feel a certain way. But what if it's because you felt a certain way and you asked the question that led to you thinking you have low self-esteem? Okay, something for you to think about. Now, here's my second point. Many of the solutions that you'll find on Google or ChatGPT, in fact, pop psychology or Instagram, I'm sure even some of the therapists that you'll find in real life give you solutions that are a little bit stupid, okay? Because they come from giving yourself positive affirmations, being kind to yourself, and surrounding yourself with positive people in your life. Now, let me tell you why, first of all, positive affirmations is kind of stupid. Because anytime you tell yourself something positive, it's usually because you are trying to fight some level of negative. If you tell yourself that you are strong, it's because you are feeling you are weak. A strong person doesn't think I'm a strong person. A strong person usually doesn't think this stuff at all. However, if you're a weaker person, you might actually need that. You might actually need to tell yourself that you are strong. So if you keep doing that to yourself, every time you tell yourself, I am strong, subconsciously, you are coming from a place of, I am weak. So I don't see how that's supposed to help you. Secondly, very, very popular phrase is, be kind to yourself. Now, this is very vague to me. If it means letting yourself off, this is very situational dependent. If you accidentally stub your toe on a table and you beat yourself up over it, saying, oh, I'm so stupid, I stubbed my toe, well then yeah, okay, you stubbed your toe, it's an accident. Relax, it's not a big deal. But let's just say you were supposed to turn up to an event that your friends organized for you or you promised you'd be a part of, and for some reason you messed up, you weren't there. I don't think that's the best time to be kind to yourself. I think you got to be brutal on yourself sometimes. Right? And because you guys know, many of you guys know, that I think the negative voice that so many people say they suffer from can easily be reinterpreted as a voice that is just demanding better of ourselves. So that's my second point, right? Being kind to yourself is very vague, very stupid. What it says to me is you just haven't built a good relationship with the negative and darker parts of yourself. And learning to do that will probably help you more than doing this stuff in front of a mirror. And the third reason why I think these solutions don't make sense is because some of these solutions aren't married to anything tangible. For example, if you tell yourself you're good enough without something to show that you are good enough, this phrase holds no weight. For example, if you're telling yourself that you are good enough for a relationship, but no one wants to date you, or even if you do get a date, no one stays to be with you, sorry, you probably just aren't good enough. Telling yourself that you are good enough without the evidence of whatever it is you are good enough at is delusional, and you're setting yourself up for greater disappointment because one day the bubble's going to come crashing down and you'll realize everything you tell yourself is false. On the flip, if you tell yourself you are good enough and you have a successful, thriving relationship, then at least there's evidence to support your claims. But default telling yourself these things without a background that is tangible to help you is probably not very helpful. Because eventually one of your friends might even say to you, "That's not true though, dude. You are telling yourself lies." Now, the third main reason why I think the idea of self-esteem is stupid, for lack of a better word, is the best method of not feeling down about yourself is actually to not turn your attention to yourself too much. So let's picture this. You've gone out for a full day with your friends. Maybe you guys went hiking or you guys went paintballing and you had a lot of fun. You were laughing, connecting, you were joking, just all around having a good time with your mates. Now let me ask you a question. While you were doing those activities, did you at any point ask yourself, am I happy right now? Or did you at any point ask yourself, how is my self-esteem right now? You probably didn't, but you remember now looking back that was a very good time and you felt probably good about yourself. You were probably incredibly happy, or whatever positive emotion you want to associate with it, maybe even content or fulfilled. But you weren't aware that you were, because the moment you become aware of it, suddenly the consciousness is there and you're more likely to find reasons to not be. And that's because you didn't stop to look inward. Now, every time you ask yourself, how am I feeling today? You are shifting your attention inwards. You're giving yourself more chances to feel bad about yourself. Self-esteem, the question, the idea, reinforces this concept. In order to have a low opinion of yourself, you first have to ask yourself, what is my opinion of myself? Which shifts your attention inward. Maybe you are in a good mood and you catch yourself thinking, I feel pretty good right now. But say you're in a bad mood and you ask yourself this same question, you might say, I feel pretty bad about myself right now. Now imagine you remove this question altogether. You don't even ask this question of how do I feel about myself. You don't spend time thinking about your opinion on yourself. You don't associate good or bad with yourself because you're not thinking about yourself. Would you have any self-esteem problems if you don't even spend time thinking about it? That's my point. That's why I think this concept is a bit stupid. That's why I think the existence of the question is the problem. The idea, the question is the problem. It's not the result that's the problem. It's almost like we've created a problem for ourselves with this idea. Prior to this, maybe you never had the words to even articulate what this was. Maybe prior to this, you never even asked yourself, what is my self-esteem? So what do I suggest if we want to feel good about ourselves? Look, I'll cover this more extensively in further podcasts, but I'll give you brief methods as to how I think we can achieve this. 1, we focus on the pragmatic side of feeling good, okay? We eat good food, we do good training, we get good sleep, and we have good relationships. Do those once, and you will be probably feeling pretty good. Next, spend time understanding the workings of your mind. In particular, learning to detach from thought. But not only that, but learning how the mind likes to conjure problems for ourselves. And how, if you think about what our minds do, we are more risk averse and we are more risk adverse, and we are more likely to think negative things. And third, turn your attention from inward to outward. Find ways to help your community. Find ways to be of value to other people. If you're able to do those things, you probably will catch yourself feeling pretty good about yourself more often. So in summary, I don't believe self-esteem is necessarily a good idea to have or adopt. Nor is it a good question to ask yourself, because the way you measure it is too subjective. It'll change too frequently. The second, Some of the solutions are completely impractical and, to be frank, delusional. Just because you stand in front of a mirror saying, I'm good, I'm strong, doesn't mean you are. And third, it forces you to turn your attention inward all the time. Okay? And we all know that turning your attention inwards probably gives you more chance to feel bad about yourself than to feel good. It causes more problems than solutions. By the way, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star rating and just share it with one of your friends. It will mean the world to me. And again, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys. Peace.